Welcome to Mapping the College Audition, a podcast where we explore the landscape of the college theater world and try to demystify this daunting audition process. I'm your host, Charlie Murphy, director of MTCA, Musical Theater College Auditions, and today we've got a sunny and dry show lined up for you. Danny Gurwin from the University of Arizona. We loved having Danny and his colleagues at our virtual college fair this summer, and I really loved chatting with him here. Today with Danny, we got into the different acting styles they study at Arizona and the acting focus of their acting and musical theater program. We talk about the integration and distinctions of their actors and their MTs within the same program. We talk about their digital showcase and the shift that they made, the pivot they made with COVID, which is going to stick for them. We talk about some of those softer moments you can find in a virtual audition with the 4 points of Zoom. We talk about scholarships and how everyone gets one based on their grades to the University of Arizona. And Danny points out what may be obvious, but still important, the warm alternative to some of these East Coast schools that Arizona presents. But Meghan, before we get to Danny, happy almost Christmas or happy holidays, but I know we're both Christmas celebrators.
Yeah.
How have your Christmas preparations been?
It's been quite festive thus far. So I did like a little stint back in Chicago after Thanksgiving with my parents in New Jersey. A lot of traveling for COVID times, to be honest. But I'm clear thus far. I did like the Lincoln Park Zoo lights. So I saw all those pretty lights.
Oh,
But my parents unfortunately lost their artificial tree in a little flood they got in their basement. So this year, they got their first real tree, and I talked them into getting a 10-foot tall tree, which is the tallest one that we've ever had in that space. But I've named it Freddie. It's a staple in the household now, and I'm very excited to go see it again for Christmas time.
Freddie the fur? Is it a fur?
No, it's just Freddie the tree.
Freddie the tree. We love that. I also love that you talked about how you lost your artificial tree, like you lost a pet. Like I was really ready to be sympathized. Like, unfortunately, we lost our artificial tree. Like you didn't give it to me like it was going to be a tree.
I don't think you understand. I've had that tree since I've been like 5 years old. It might as well be part of my Christmas experience.
Okay, well then you gave that appropriate line reading.
They got every cent of that artificial tree. So this tree chopping down experience was my first experience.
Well, so ironic. It was also my first time with a real tree that we've gone to a tree farm and chopped down.
Look at that.
Elizabeth and I went last weekend to this tree farm in deep New Jersey. We took a full trip. We got in the car, poor Solvay's screaming her head off. We're we're going to do this thing. We're going to saw it down ourselves. We're going to have this authentic experience. And we went to this tree farm and all the trees were super ugly. And we were so we were a little depressed at first, and we're do we turn back? What do we do? And then we just decided we're going to lean into the experience and get the ugliest tree we could possibly find. We're not going to just get because there are a couple you could almost kind of pay more for one that's they've shaved it into being kind of normal. We're no, that's not what we're doing. We bought this beauty who's so tall.
Did you name it?
We've named her Zion. Yeah, it's what we almost named our child. So that's how much we love her, is that we gave her the name that we almost gave Solvay. She's super tall. She's super skinny. And she's a full 3 acts. She has this weird, really shaved, close to the ground bottom, which we gave twinkle lights to it. And then she has this big full middle that's almost a whole tree in and of itself in the middle. It looks normal. We gave that colored lights. And then there's this top part that's weird and bristly and misshapen, and we put a face on it. We put a little face on the top of it, just so you have 3 full different trees stacked on top of each other.
I will leak it to our listeners that I have seen this tree, and it truly does look like a shish kebab tree, I told Charlie. Or alternatively, it looks like something straight out of Whoville and the Grinch tree.
How dare you? Our house is full of Christmas cheer. Cheer, we say in this household. Solvay's for Christmas.
The end of Grinch, when he's fully accepting Christmas.
The heart has grown 3 sizes. Yeah, well, that's the metaphor I made when we had our baby, was that my heart grew sizes.
That middle of the tree is the heart growing 3 sizes.
We'll post this in our Instagram just so you can really appreciate our trees. Well, I hope all of you out there are having as much Christmas fun as Meg and I are, and whatever holidays you're celebrating at this moment. And let's get to this episode with Danny. Well, we are honored to have Danny Gurwin on the pod today. Danny has a BFA in musical theater from the University of Michigan. We've heard of it. He's been all over Broadway in shows like Little Women, Urinetown, The Full Monty, Scarlet Pimpernel, A Little Night Music, Kismet, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. That's too many Broadway shows, Danny, for us to read them all. He's been on your TV screens in shows like Desperate Housewives, Law and Order, The Young and the Restless, and has directed and taught all over the country. The University of Arizona, where Danny now is located in Tucson, Arizona. They take class sizes about 16 to 18 students, and they offer degrees in acting, musical theater, and other degrees in design and technical production, film, television, and theater studies. Danny, welcome on the pod. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. Thanks. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. Before we dive too deep into Arizona itself, I'd love to talk a bit about your own background. So, how did you find yourself after that fabulous Broadway career, ending up at this university?
I started teaching master classes and things when I was on Broadway. It's one of the perks of working on Broadway. I think, opportunities to work with students, work with groups who come to see the show, do workshops, things like that. And I really enjoyed it. And so I began teaching when I moved to Los Angeles in 2006. So I started teaching in LA, more of a half-time basis. And I really enjoyed it. It was something that was very fulfilling. I enjoyed passing down ideas and thoughts, and I really learned a lot about how to teach when I first began, when you're first getting out there. And then in 2012, I received a phone call from the University of Arizona because I had worked at different colleges around the country by that point. And they asked me if I wanted to come be a guest professor for a term. And I said, yes, that sounds great. I wanted to experience that. And at the end of my time there was a position available, and they asked me if I would like to become a professor. And I thought, it's a huge leap, but I'm going to take it. So I've been at Arizona now for 10 years, and I'm having a great time.
It's so cool. And certainly that work is paying off. I can say Arizona is one of those schools that has been rocketing up the list of our students. We see it more and more over the past 10 years on more and more students' lists.
Well, thank you.
Let's get a little bit into the school itself. And I know it's not easy to kind of sum up in brief, like, what do you think makes a University of Arizona student? But what do you think makes a University of Arizona student?
Well, I think a student who's super curious, who's super inventive, who's super unique, and wants to learn how to approach all the work from an acting standpoint. We look at all the work here at the university through the actor's lens. So whether you're dancing, whether you're singing, whether you're doing scene work or a monologue, it's all seen through that actor's lens. So I think, and we have a wonderful program to back all that up. So I think students that are who have those qualities, that are looking for a university like that, Arizona might be the perfect place.
I love it. So let's imagine now I'm a student. I come in, I'm curious, I'm unique, I'm ready to look at things through an acting lens. How am I going to change over the course of 4 years? What am I going to learn curriculum-wise that's going to change me as an artist and a technician?
Well, our acting class, first of all, you travel as a cohort. It's an integrated class of acting and musical theater majors together. And that happens in your voice and movement track for the actor, but also in your acting track. We begin in the first 3 semesters with modern realism. You move on to Chekhov after that, some poetic realism for you. And then in the junior year, you're on to Shakespeare and Restoration. And then we bring it full circle in the senior year as we prepare for Showcase, back to contemporary realism and contemporary plays, things like that. In terms of the musical theater curriculum, it's the same idea. You start with an introductory year of musical theater, and then you move on to performance work, which includes working on songs within the given circumstances of the shows. So students get a sense of creating a character and analyzing that character. In the junior year, we go into scene work. So musical theater scene work is something we do a ton of. And then in the senior year, again, we're back to preparing your book, getting you ready not only for Showcase, but for all your time outside the university. So the minute you graduate, you are ready to go and everything's prepared.
So for those MT students, so I love the idea of you guys are an acting focused, or you're willing to look through everything through that lens of acting first. Tell me a little bit more about the song and dance training that I'm going to get as a musical theater student.
Well, we have a terrific faculty. I'm really proud to be a part of this faculty. My colleagues are all working professionals in the business. and we each bring something unique, I think, to the classroom. You're going to get great dance training with Professor Christy Kerr. You need 10 credits of dance to graduate here. And essentially, you take 4 of those credits within the department, and that's musical theater styles 1 and 2. And then you will take the rest of your credits in the dance school. And Arizona has one of the top dance schools in the country. So that includes your ballet, your modern, your jazz, Africana dance, hip hop, all things like that. So you have the opportunity to work in the dance school as well as in terms of the musical theater school. And in terms of the acting, we have great professors that are able to really connect with students, connect their professional experience, and bring all that to the classroom. And so as you're working through different styles, you're also learning how technique works, how you bring yourself to the work, which is, of course, what we're all looking to do. You are the instrument. And so we are always keeping that in the forefront of our minds as we work through your time here.
And what about for acting students? So say I'm an acting major. What kind of musical theater, if I was that acting major who's also kind of likes to sing and I kind of want to dance, but I want to focus more on acting, what kind of, do I get any musical theater training as an acting student?
You can. Against some acting majors don't want that at all, and there are some that are very interested in it. I will actually fold in acting majors into the Musical Theater 1 class, give them a sense of foundation work and understand how creating a musical theater character works and how to perform a song. It's acting through the song. So they can apply some of the same techniques that they're learning in their acting classes, of course, to musical theater work. The thing that acting majors also have is specialties in film acting and screen acting. Musical theater majors are allowed to take that course as well as an elective, but it's required for the acting majors. So again, we take everybody through that progression from contemporary realism through Shakespeare and beyond, and then they're allowed to perform in musical theater classes. They actually can audition for production musicals. So no matter what major you are, you audition for everything. So we have musical theater majors in the plays, we have acting majors in the musicals. So we give everybody an opportunity to perform as much as they can and in as many different genres and as they can.
I love it. And then what about outside of the theater program? You talked a little bit about the dance world, but just in the larger university, what does the University of Arizona provide to a student outside of just the acting musical theater world?
Yeah, it's a Research One university is what they call it. So it's you get the huge university feel. You get football and basketball and all the games. You get all that university pride, but you have a small conservatory where your acting and your musical theater work are being done. So you can make a big school small, but you can't necessarily make a small school big. So if you want that full college experience in terms of your gen eds, then this might be a really good place. And also then getting your training in a smaller, more intimate way.
And why do you find, if you're accepting students and they've got a lot of great acceptances, why do you find a student might not choose your school? Why do they end up, if you hear, hey, I ended up going this direction, what kind of reasons or what conclusions do they come to if they end up somewhere else?
Usually has to do with academics. There is a gate here. So the university looks at, applications. And usually maintaining a 3.0 is needed in all your classes. To maintain your scholarships, you need to keep a 3.0. To maintain your standing in the program, you have to maintain a 3.0. So for some students, college is hard. And it's not necessarily their favorite thing, going to classes again, and especially at the college level. So so that's one of the main reasons that students will not choose Arizona. But on the other hand, it's a reason that many students do choose Arizona. So it's sort of both things. It's fun, and the students are all very close. I mean, we have we like to think it's a family vibe here. So students, that everyone hangs out together. They're all very tight, very supportive of each other. It's competitive to a certain extent because of production work, but everyone knows how to support everybody, and that I'm very proud of.
Anything else we missed about your school in general that you would want a prospective student to know about University of Arizona?
Let's see. We do have a senior showcase. That's a digital showcase that we film in January. We prepare it all in the fall term, and then we film it in the spring term. That's
Mm-hmm.
rather new. We pivoted during COVID, and we found it was actually incredibly successful. So we're keeping that. That's the one good thing I can say that we're keeping from COVID is the showcase. So we do
Mm-hmm.
have that. We introduce you to the industry. We have a lot of friends. All of our friends from New York and LA. We introduce you to all of them, and we post it on the casting, on breakdown services, and all
Mm-hmm.
over. So students are seen by thousands of casting directors and agents and managers at a time. So it's very exciting.
It's such a smart takeaway to do from COVID of just like the number of times, especially in my early career, where I wish I would like, here's a great reel of me that I already have created when I haven't done a lot of TV and film work. It's so
Right.
cool to be able to have that already recorded, as opposed to like, hey, go back and watch my showcase. Like it's
Yeah.
like too late. That happened already. People are like want to meet you at 24.
Yeah, we also have a close relationship with the film school.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are tons of student thesis films being done all the time. So we encourage students to participate in those the minute they get here. So we have 6 freshmen right now that are filming thesis films. So in addition to the showcase, students often graduate with a digital reel that they can take with.
Mm. Okay, well, let's take a quick break. We're going to sell some ads. And in a second here, when we're back, we'll be with Danny talking about the University of Arizona audition process. All right, we are back with Danny Gurwin here to talk about the audition process. So, in short, Danny, what do you think makes a great audition for you?
Oh, great audition. First of all, we're looking for nice people, just someone who comes in the room, knows who they are, and is kind. That makes a big difference, especially for 4 years. You want to work with someone who's going to bring their best to the classroom every day. So that's something that we look for. We look for students that are unique, that have a unique perspective on their work, and know how to sort of begin at least to connect to material and understand style to a certain
Mm-hmm.
extent. We look for trainability, of course, as most universities would, so that it doesn't have to be perfect. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
students that make mistakes and try to recover are some of our favorites. So the more you know your material, the better you connect with it. The more connection we're going to feel with you. So I think that's something that we will look for.
Is there anything that's like a big turnoff for you in an audition? This is all my students' favorite question. They always want to know, what shouldn't I do? Is there anything that you go, oh, please don't do this in an audition for me?
Please don't sing "Try Me." There are a couple
There you
songs that
go.
we
Not for
do
Danny, at least.
that are popular, and some can be overdone. So I would say there's a couple that we're fine when we hear them, but we like to hear other things as well. We don't put out a list of songs not to sing. I mean, some schools actually do that, and that's not something we want to do. We want to encourage students to find material that they're comfortable with, whatever it is, even if it's "Try Me." And
But you're just saying, try me something else.
try me another song, maybe that's a little more unusual. Yeah.
I love it. What about how do any of those answers change in either a pre-screen audition or a video audition? As you think about, is there any kind of different advice that you throw out to someone if you're watching a recorded or a virtual audition?
Not really. I mean, you have to, if you're on Zoom, we do a virtual day of auditions. That's something that we'll continue to do in addition to our in-person callbacks that we have. But in terms of pre-screens, I mean, you can actually succeed playing it not being as big as you would maybe on stage or in person, because of the camera and the 4 corners that you're playing within. But at the same time, we want people to find what's theatrical about the material. But being reserved and having restraint online is something that we sometimes see and really respond to. Understanding how to control things and find, softer moments that, you can contrast with something much bigger depending on your pieces. We look for that variety and that versatility as well.
Totally. All right. My favorite question, which is if you had to estimate how much of your decision, your artistic decision in the room, is based on like the skill displayed in the material, so like what they actually get up and sing and act in for you,
Mhm.
versus those intangibles of like what happens if you throw an interview question, or if you give an adjustment, or the interaction that happens in the room that's not in the material. So
Oh,
how much is in one column, how much in column B?
gosh. I guess I would say they're even to a certain extent. Um, you have to, if the work that you choose, the selections you choose are half of it, then I think it's fair to say the 50% of you bring to that work is what brings it alive.
Hmm.
So I think I would split the columns evenly.
And then what, just to add more columns to it,
Okay.
how does that work then with, now you have an artistic decision, potentially, or artistic vote or grade, or how does that then work with the academics for the university in terms of the student actually getting in? Is it just a bar they have to pass, or does the university get a real weighing in on who you end up accepting?
Well, the first thing the students do is apply to the university. So, and that's something that we don't have any part in. We can see all their applications. We get transcripts. We look at grade points. And what's great about the financial aid system here is that every student immediately is awarded a tuition waiver of some size, depending on their grade point average. And it no longer considers test scores. You can
Mm-hmm.
supply those, but that's not what they're looking at and they're analyzing. But that GPA is really important. So I think that's why Arizona is a challenging academic school as well,
Mm-hmm.
because it does
And
look for that. And again, money is given right away to students who have a higher GPA.
And once they've passed that academic bar, maybe with the pre-screen, and now you're looking at them, now the decision is all yours. You can pick, these are the people we're actually
Yeah,
accepting.
exactly.
Hmm.
There's a small contingent of us. There's three professors really that do recruiting. We just
Hmm.
traveled to Dallas for an event, and we'll
Hmm.
travel to Unifines in Chicago and LA, or now Anaheim, I should say, Chicago and Anaheim.
Hmm.
And we'll do three.
Fix that in post, Megan. You can help them out. Everybody's saying LA when they mean Anaheim. We've all been doing it this year.
Um, and and then we do on-campus dates, which we encourage for students, so they can do their callbacks and meet the whole faculty. They can meet
Hmm.
students, get a sense of student life, hang out a bit, and explore. And so that's something that we encourage in terms of callbacks. But you will be treated equally whether you do your callback in Chicago or Anaheim. Those will be video recorded and brought back to the
Hmm.
full faculty to watch.
I love it. And then you talked about, the lens of acting first in terms of the way you teach. Is that also true in the audition in terms of, are you weighing acting more heavily in terms of the admission, or are you weighing all three disciplines equally? Or some schools maybe say, I'm going to throw this discipline out, the third of your disciplines, and take the first two. How does that work in terms of the final artistic decision for you?
I think we weigh them all evenly. Uh, You know what I mean? I mean, a student who is a fantastic actor who doesn't sing as well may get the same attention that a fantastic singer gets.
Hmm.
So again, we do. I guess we prioritize that to a certain extent, but not in terms of a number system. We don't
Hmm.
grade those things specifically, but it's because it's one combined score essentially. Um, and then we look at the scores. Everything is put together, and we
Hmm.
students are essentially ranked based on the scores, but we score blindly, so we don't know what another professor is scoring
Hmm.
in terms of callbacks.
But then that becomes a holistic score. That's a score for you as a musical theater major for all three
Right,
disciplines.
for all three
Hmm.
disciplines, essentially.
Hmm. Love it. Well, great. Well, let's just wrap with this. Is there any like advice that you would give to a student who's auditioning for your school? Let's say this year. Is there any big advice that you would give to them?
I guess I would say love your material. Just be careful that there's so many coaches out there that they give you something and it fits all the criteria. It's a ballad before 1970. Why should you do this one? That you actually do love it, because that can make a big difference. You can kind of
Mm,
tell when a student has chosen a piece that isn't quite the right fit. And
mhm,
so I guess I would encourage everybody to make sure that they love their monologues. Some students get really nervous and want to do their monologue first. Like I try not to have that attitude of, oh, I want to get this over with.
mhm,
It's a really beautiful piece of the audition, and it's something that's important to us. And so hopefully students will love their material enough to be confident to do it in any order they want.
Mm.
and know that there's no throwaway portion of the audition.
I love it. Okay, we'll just wrap with a couple questions, kind of looking forward and looking back. I'd love to talk a little bit about the specific challenges of 2020 and 2021,
Sure.
and maybe some of the ways that your school has pivoted, as you mentioned, to meet the moment. Maybe we can start with the conversation about the demands for racial equity, and then maybe get into some of those specifics of how you've pivoted virtually.
Right. So we actually did a deep dive into that this year, into equity, diversity, and inclusion. And we actually brought in a specialist, Professor Kaya Dunn from North Carolina. And she came in and worked not only with the faculty, but with the students as well, in terms of, not only talking about issues and allowing people to ask questions that maybe would be uncomfortable, but brought us all together and began a dialogue and helped us begin that dialogue and mediated in a really beautiful way. And that was the first step. That was very helpful. She also took a look at all of our curriculum and our syllabi, and made us each individually look at what we were assigning and how it was assigned, and trying to decolonize that. Especially things like Shakespeare, even musical theater performance, making sure
Mhm.
that writers of color are represented, composers and lyricists of color. And in general was incredibly insightful and encouraging. And so that's what we did this year to make sure that we were all, and last year to make sure we were listening, and
Mhm.
really hearing each other and seeing each other in the moment. And so that's the work we continue to do. It's not perfect yet, but we are always working toward that. We want to make sure
Mhm.
students are comfortable, that they feel included, that they understand. They understand the difference between looking at work in terms of a historical context, but we can talk about exactly what it is that they're concerned about. Looking at in musical theater history, looking at actors in yellowface or blackface, and being able
Mhm.
to talk about it and have a really rich conversation.
Mm. And then what about some of those virtual pivots that you talked about the showcase pivoting to be recorded virtual.
Right.
Are there other things that you have done in terms of, I know you also mentioned the audition, but also classes, and in terms of, has anything sort of been gleaned from this crazy year that we've all just had?
Well, yeah. Well, we don't love Zoom. There are some classes that continue on Zoom, but this year we're all in person. Students are masked uh, inside the studios. We have an exemption, though. They perform without masks. The audience
Hmm.
is more than 6 feet away, and we're very proud that our students are vaccinated. Um, so, uh, so yeah, I think we're hoping that as cases go down in Arizona, that maybe next term we can even unmask for performances in class. But for
Hmm.
right now, we do have that exemption on campus for performing without them in the shows, and that's been really helpful. I think
Hmm.
encouraging for the students. Uh, I think they get a little frustrated, and I'm not. I don't blame them at all. In terms of the year we had last year, we were all online. We made sure that students were safe. We were following all the CDC guidelines and protocols. And this year, it's better, and we're hoping that next year is even betterer.
Mm.
Uh, is you know so we'll keep following all that. We keep a very close eye on it. We want to make sure students are safe at all times. That's our first priority. And so that's one thing we learned, is
Totally.
that it's not as fun as being in person and playing with your friends.
We don't love Zoom. I could put that on, just the way you said that, I could put that on a loop. And we don't love Zoom. It's not my favorite.
Not a favorite.
I, I've I've already declared to all my friends I'm not going to another Zoom concert. I'm out on any kind of performance. I just can't do it. I'll come see you live, but I can't do the Zoom
Right, right.
concerts. But you did mention then that the 2022 season, at least, there is going to be a virtual audition day. Is that something you guys are continue onward, or is that just sort of case by case?
Oh, yes, thank you. Yeah, we are going to keep it in place. So that's for any student who can't afford to travel to all of these conferences or can't get to campus in a certain time frame.
Hmm.
So many students are performing now too. They're back on stage themselves in their high school shows, and they can't actually make it. They have competitions that they're doing. So yeah, that virtual day is for everybody who can't make it to a callback in person. So I think we'll keep that in place. It's been very. We did all of last year on Zoom, of course, in terms of
Hmm.
auditions. But we did find we can still find students that way. We found our whole freshman class, our current class, from Zoom. So we're confident that we're able to still assess students in a really complete and positive way on Zoom.
Any final thoughts? Anything else that you missed that you really wanted to get in about the audition process, about Arizona, or anything that we didn't hit?
Uh, it's a great city. It's warm here. You get all the musical theater and none of the snow.
Yes.
So there's that. It's a great alternative to all those schools on the East Coast. I mean, being where we are in the Southwest, it's close to LA. A lot of our students actually head to LA after graduation. Usually it's halvesies. We have a lot of actors travel to New York. Some go to Chicago, and some go right to LA. They really find that the film curriculum they have here has inspired them to pursue TV and film, and so we're close by there. Everything's a drive away. So yeah, it's a great place to be, and so hopefully more of your students will consider Arizona.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong that so much of the concentration of these programs is on the East Coast, and to be that hub is really fantastic.
Yeah, and to be that
For the
cold,
students who don't want to be.
you don't want to be cold.
No, come on, it's college. I want to go to those football games. I want to go to the basketball games, and I want to be wearing shorts when I do it.
Exactly.
Well, Danny, if people wanted to hear more from you, they can follow you at DB Gurwin on Instagram. Is that right?
That's right. And they can also follow the program at U Arizona Acting MT.
Arizona Acting MT. It's just that easy, just to write it out. U Arizona Acting MT.
You'll see posts about alumni and alumni success, about what we're doing currently, about student success in the classroom. So that's a great place to be. And we also post updates in terms of auditioning and recruitment. We'll also post some things on there for students to follow up with.
Danny, it was so nice to get to chat with you today. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that chat with Danny Gurwin. I thought he was really easy to talk to, and he has this really bright and cogent approach to their educational philosophy, which I really dig. I just wanted to take a second and do a bit of a deeper dive on something Danny touched on. He didn't go into it deeply, but it's something I've been wanting to go into for a while. When he talked about their BFA conservatory within a larger university, he said the phrase, "You can make big small, but you can't make small big," as a selling point to their school. And I just wanted to address some of the potential word confusion when I hear people talking about conservatory versus BFA versus BA versus BM versus liberal arts. These terms are often used slightly differently by different people, and it can get confusing because sometimes people are describing the educational focus of the school, and sometimes they're describing the environment of the school. And it's not so important that you're all on the same page with exactly what these terms mean. I just want you to kind of understand what's behind some of these terms in terms of what's relevant for you. So there are some examples of schools on the far end of the spectrum, I don't know why I always call this the left of the spectrum, that are conservatories by all definitions, meaning they are not affiliated with the university at all, and they are conservatory style education. That's the far end. And then there's schools on the far right that are liberal arts educations in theater at universities, which are on that, and again, could be flip the left or right or up or down, however you do it. But you could major in theater at these universities, but not specialize at all, right? So they'd be like majoring in English at any university where you get a BA, and there's nothing special about the theater major in terms of applying to the school. It just happens to be what you major in. But when we talk about most audition-based programs, the vast majority of audition-based programs that students look at, we're talking about some schools that fit in between those two ends of the spectrum, right? It might be a school that's a conservatory-style BFA school housed within a university, like Carnegie Mellon, my alma mater, or it might be an audition-based BA program where you take specialized classes, but still a whole lot of gen eds as well. And everything in between exists as well. So you could have anything that's going to be a BFA, or in this case, we'll loop BM in with BFA for musical theater. There's really a distinction without a huge difference in terms of the amount of specialization there, is going to have some conservatory style elements. So any BFA is going to have some conservatory style elements, even if there are still a significant amount of gen eds, like an NYU, where you have both studio classes and university classes, and a significant amount of those latter. But I think rather than think of it as a binary, is a school a conservatory or is it not, or is it a liberal arts school? I think it's helpful to think about it as a spectrum and where it fits on that spectrum. And ultimately, I think the most helpful way to actually analyze this is by curriculum. How many non-theater classes are you taking? That's when we're talking about how specialized is a school from an from an academic perspective. When we're talking about environment, of course, you can know, is there sports and is there other things? Is there sports? I sound like whatever. Are there sports? And are there other university elements that go beyond just the conservatory, if it is just a conservatory, or if the arts is the entire part of the school? All of these distinctions matter a lot to the kind of training you're going to get and the educational experience you'll have. To be honest, once you're out in the world, the business will not know these intimate distinctions. They don't know whether it was a BFA style conservatory style or BFA liberal arts style. They just know the school you went and they'll see the actor in front of them. But it is really important for you to understand as you're building your list, or for those who already have their list built or ultimately deciding where they want to spend 4 years. Well, if you spent these 4 years with this podcast, it wasn't 4 years, maybe it was 40 minutes, and enjoy this episode, please follow along, hit that subscribe button. We would also really appreciate it if you were to rate and review us wherever you find us. I suggest 5 stars if you're a mature adult, and an ironic 5 stars if you giggle every time I say BM. You can also reach out to us with questions for the pod at mailbag@mappingthecollegeaudition.com, or reach out to me and Meghan directly on social media. I'm at Charmer7 and Meghan is at Meghan Marie 2014. If you're interested in working with MTCA for help with your individualized prep for your college audition journey, please check us out at mtcollegeauditions.com. You can also follow us at Musical Theater College Auditions on Instagram or at Tweet MTCA on Twitter. And by the time you're listening to this, we'll be up on YouTube and maybe even that silly little app that all you kids are on, the TikToks. To my young artists out there mapping their journeys, is a winter in shorts truly a winter? I'll see you next week.